Hey everybody, what's going on? This is NGS and welcome back to another fantastic episode of VEDA. VEDA stands for Vlog Every Day in April and we are on day 12. So again, sorry for another late night video. It seems to be the trend of the past couple of VEDAs, but oh well, what are you going to do? So for today's episode in particular, I wanted to talk about one thing in particular. I wanted to talk about a movie I saw over the weekend. And it's been a while since I've done, I guess, a movie review. I think the last one I did was for Battle of Gods. But today what I want to talk to you guys about is a low-budget horror movie that I saw called It Follows. And what was really interesting and what prompted me to actually get on camera and do a review for this movie is that this movie, going into it, first off, it was not what I expected to be, number one. And number two, it just, even after seeing the movie, it just kept me thinking. So with It Follows, like, I think it's no shock to anybody that much like a lot of the hip-hop industry, when it comes to the horror genre as a whole, it really has not moved forward much in the past decade or so. I think it's been pretty stagnant. Everyone's been relying on the same old tropes for the longest. Granted, we still do get some really good films every now and then, but again, those are so few and far between in, you know, the stream of Saw sequels and Paranormal Activity sequels and remakes and reboots for the horror genres. You catch my gist. So I've been pretty apathetic to the genre for a really long time. So I don't see these films in theaters more often than not. I wait for them to hit Netflix or Redbox them for $1 if I'm chilling with friends. So what was interesting about this one is that it was a blind movie going experience for me. I went out with a friend, and she had really wanted to see this movie for a while. I had no idea about it whatsoever because, as far as I was concerned, the next big movie I was going to see was Avengers: Age of Ultron. But I decided to see this, and wow, it was really interesting. So first and foremost, It Follows, like I mentioned, is a low-budget horror movie. That was the first thing that struck out to me because when it comes to horror movies nowadays, you can make so much bank on stuff with such a low budget that it really doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. You can have a movie for $5 million and then you can make like $45 million at the box office. It's just insane how little you have to put into it. But the really interesting thing about It Follows is that it's a $2 million budget movie that feels like the entire budget went into the movie. It didn't go into paying an actor. It didn't go into using clever special effects because this movie is so traditional in that respect. This movie is a traditional horror movie. This is a film that honestly takes a lot of inspiration from the late 70s, early 80s era of movies such as Halloween, Friday the 13th. Because if you compare horror movies back then to horror movies now, you notice that nowadays everything is a lot more high octane. Everything is so action packed. Everything is so thriller-esque. Everything is just trying to get you, you know, so to build up the tension as soon as possible and have extended scary scenes filled with jump scares galore. And in more recent years, we've seen a lot more horror movies incorporate CG into that. But with It Follows, it really doesn't because the main premise of the movie, this is no spoilers to anybody. If you've seen the trailer, then you know what happens in the movie. Well, you know a general idea. In It Follows, basically, bear with me, please. There is this thing, right, that follows you. And the only way to get rid of this thing from following you is to have sexual relations with another person. And then that thing starts following them. And so what this thing does is that it tries to kill you. Okay? And if it successfully kills you, it works its way back up the line to, you know, who you had sexual relations with. And it's the story of this girl, Jay, who is dating this one dude. You know, she has sex with him. And this thing starts following her. Now, what's really interesting about this is that this is definitely a callback to 80s films like Halloween. If you compare Halloween, the original, to how it is in the Rob Zombie version, you know that Michael Myers in the original stalked his prey. There were a lot of scenes where Michael Myers would just be there, but not go for the kill. There were a lot of scenes that just showed him walking towards his victims, which is a complete contrast to what Rob Zombie did, but, you know, that's a completely different story entirely. Shots fired. So the interesting thing about this entity is that it doesn't run. It doesn't fly. It doesn't teleport in front of you. It doesn't do anything weird. It just simply walks towards you. And I don't know about you guys, but that is one of the scariest things out there, to see that, you know, this thing is going to kill you. It's not running towards you. It's not leaping towards you. It's not flying at you. It just walks towards you. And what really made this interesting was that this thing has no set form. It has no set shape, because it's based on the perceptions of the person. So it could be anything. It could be a random Joe Schmo on the street. It could be somebody that you know, somebody that you love, somebody that you miss, you know, deep psychological problems. It might become someone who you have like a weird relationship with, you know, and that's the scariest part, because this thing, all you do is see it in the distance coming towards you. And since it looks like anybody, you don't know who it possibly could be, which starts to make you feel paranoid of that situation, which you see a lot in the movie. And I just think that was one of the best uses of this film's budget. They were really resourceful in that respect, because they didn't have to go out of their way to create like this crazy looking monster with all this prop work. You know, it's a simple concept that really, really does work at the end of the day. And it was just such a contrast to things we've been seeing nowadays. And the movie is not it's not a thriller by any means. This is not a movie that, you know, builds up tension leading to that one thing that happens that gets everybody going crazy. No, there's a lot of moments in the movie that's really just calm, and the characters trying to understand the reality of the situation and what's going on, and then something just immediately happens and you're just like, holy crap. You know, and it doesn't rely on jump scares either. That was actually really awesome. Like, there's rarely any, if not. And that's something that I appreciate going forward. I think jump scares have their place in movies, but they've become far too... people got to find a new thing to use. I mean, it's jump scares, it's slow-mo, it's, you know, rotating shaky cam, too much of everything. But that was really cool. I really did like that concept. You know, the movie has a great pace. It definitely feels so 1980s. It doesn't feel like, you know, they're just trying to set something up for just a grandiose conclusion and all of that. No, it's the pacing that is very different than something that you would see nowadays. As well as the score for the film, definitely straight out of a 1980s movie. Everything just feels so creepy and synthesized, and it was just awesome, dude. It was awesome to, you know, see a movie in 2015 that has the vibe of a 1980s flick in its heart, in its soul. You know, this is a movie that was made 30 years ago, which was insanely cool, because they took it back to the basics. They took it back to understanding how to make a great horror film with a limited budget and using your surroundings. The film was actually filmed in Detroit. And even to an extent, Detroit is part of the movie. You definitely see a lot of social commentary going on in that respect. You see how, you know, the characters are living this nice suburban life, but then when they go down to certain parts that are risque, you know, that plays a part in the movie too. So they definitely used the surroundings where they filmed to the best of their abilities. And other than that, the actors in the film did a really decent job. I wasn't familiar with anyone, but they all did, I would say, standard work for the horror genre, but not anything cliche, which was pretty cool. Everybody felt genuine and down to earth. There were no crazy stereotype characters that you would see in the horror genre. Of course, you've got they're kids at the end of the day, so, you know, kids are going to be kids, and some are going to be stupid and annoying. But they all did what they needed to do for the movie, which was okay. Obviously, nobody's going to win any awards, but it's decent nonetheless. So other than that, I really enjoyed a lot about this movie. I loved what really went into the movie. The only thing that I do have an issue with is that this is not going to be a spoiler. This is, well, it's semi-spoiler, but not really. There's a scene towards the end of the movie that is just so gosh darn retarded. Like, towards the end of the movie is where it kind of lost me, where with some of the things that the characters were doing. I mean, it starts off really great, really awesome middle section. But then after that, it kind of like dies down and gets really stupid, to say the least. I'm not going to spoil anything, but if you watch the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And then by the end of the film, it just, oh man, again, I can't spoil it, but it just ends. It just ends like that. But yeah, that was It Follows. It Follows it's definitely worth checking out. Is it going to win any awards? No. Is it the greatest horror film in the past 30 years? No. But it's really interesting in a lot of ways, and it definitely shows that there still are people who are creative. It still shows that there are people who appreciate the genre and are willing to take a risk to not necessarily spin the wheel, but give us something we haven't seen in a while, instead of going for the regular regurgitation that we've seen over and over and over again. So I definitely do think the film is worth checking out. Obviously, you have to go into it, you know, understanding that it's a really kooky premise and certain things are going to be stupid. But other than that, it's a pretty decent film. And as a person who loves film, you know, I was definitely surprised by this. It is a movie that I'll definitely watch more than once. Not necessarily a scary movie, mind you, but it's more about the tension, the vibe, and the atmosphere that holds you, as opposed to something being completely scary. And come on, I mean, your enemy is somebody that just walks towards you. That just ramps it up entirely. So yeah, guys, that was my, I guess you could say, real talk VEDA review of It Follows. If you have a chance to check it out in theaters, I recommend seeing it. If not, definitely rent it or wait to stream it on Netflix if it ever hits that. I'm GS signing out for now, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.